Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing my August wrap up. Excuse the change of scenery, it's extremely warm out and my room turns into a furnace when it is even slightly hot, and it's cooler in here. So I'm in here, so I'm not sweating. Also, green eyeshadow. That's a new one for me. I've never really played with green eyeshadow and it's a bit messier than I would like. Also I've been wearing it for a while, so it has kind of gone a bit dodgy in some places. But honestly, I think I like it more than I thought I would. This is my August wrap up. This is probably going to be pretty quick, to be honest, because 3 of these books are rereads. 3 of them were read for videos that haven't come out yet, so I'm not going to talk about them very long. And that leaves 3 other ones. So yeah, there's only really 3 books for me to talk about. Obviously I'll go through all of them, but I'm not going to talk about them as much. So I suppose we'll get into it. Do you like having stats in? Because I used to always do them and now I don't do them as much, but I think I kind of stopped doing them because a lot of the times I used to film like before the end of the month, so I kind of stopped including them just in case I did finish another one. But I do like stats, so I should probably bring them back. And in the time that I've asked you, do you want stats back, I could have just read off the stats. So the first book that I read in August, which I was shocked when I saw that I read this in August because it feels like a million years ago, was The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And I really liked this book. I had a couple of issues with it, which is why I didn't get the 5 star. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it. Yane, I think. And she is from the north, but her mother comes from this kingdom, got disowned, and now her mother has died, and then she is summoned back to her mother's home. And it turns out that her grandfather is offering her the position to basically fight to inherit the crown. I haven't read a lot of N.K. Jemisin. I've only read 4 books so far, but I have a feeling she's like the queen of fantasy reveals, because there was a reveal in this and there's also a reveal in the 5th season, which are so brilliantly executed. And the thing is, okay, I didn't really see the reveal in this coming. I did see the one in the 5th season, but still the way she laid it out was brilliantly done. And I think a lot of people do see the reveal in the 5th season coming, but that doesn't make it any less brilliant. I would say probably like 95% of the people who like saw that coming don't go, oh, it ruined the book for me because I knew it was coming. They go, no, because it made sense. And in this one, it also made sense, and like the slow reveal of it, I just love it. I love how she does it. Obviously, I have a lot more to read. I do want to read and ranking all of N.K. Jemisin's books eventually in the future. I still have a lot to do before I do that, because obviously this is only my 4th book I've read from her, and I have like the Dreamblood, is it Dreamblood duology? Yeah, then we have the 2 books in the Great Cities. I'm not sure if there are going to be more of those, and then I have obviously the next 2 books in this series, which I think are technically companion novels. But as I said, I still have a long way to go before I can do a ranking N.K. Jemisin, but I'm excited to explore more of her work. I liked our main character. Well, okay, liked is a strong word. I found all of the characters very interesting, and how they all thought and interacted. Difficult relationships that a lot of them had, because like her mother obviously abandoned her position to go marry a barbarian, and her grandfather hates her and loves her. And then the grandfather and the granddaughter are complete strangers, and she absolutely does not trust him, thinks that he's up to stuff, which rightly so, does not seem like a good character. And I just think all of it was so brilliantly done. There's a lot of fun side characters as well. There are like these godlike creatures that are under the control of this family, and they are trying to like recruit our main character to free them, and basically everyone is kind of plotting against her. And I love those kind of stories where it's like, you know, our main character is literally stuck in the middle trying to figure out what the hell is the best option. And as I said, I really enjoyed that kind of a plot, and the writing style in here is very interesting. I think, again, that's another thing that N.K. Jemisin does brilliantly, is she switches up her writing style. She does creative things and different things with each of her books. Obviously the 5th season has a 2nd person, and this one we kind of get these almost interruptions, and they kind of tie in to the reveal, I'll say. And I just love the way that all played out, and I thought it was really brilliantly done, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, so I give it a 4 stars. Now onto rereads. So as I said, I am not going to talk about these for too long. So I reread A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, I gave this 5 stars again. This is officially my favorite one in the series. So also look how messy this is getting. Anyway, so this is my 5th time reading them, and every time I've had a different favorite. And so last time I read them was my 4th time, and I went back around to my 1st time, which was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, I think. This time I read them, it was still 1st, but it was then the 3rd book, then the 2nd book. So I think officially the 1st is definitely my favorite. 2nd and 3rd can still be battled out, I think, but I think I lean towards 3rd at this moment anyway. It's the most watched video on my channel, so if you're ever watching my V.E. Schwab ranking, I can't remember what order I have them in, but this is number 1. So this series, it follows Kel, and he is an Antari, which is a blood magician, and this gives him the ability to travel through the 4 different Londons. So like 300 years ago, there was 4 Londons. All of the doors were open between the worlds so people could travel through them. Then Black London kind of started to get consumed by magic, so Red London locked themselves away from everyone else. And now only Antari can travel through these different Londons using their blood magic. So we have Grey London, which is our London, Red London, which is healthy and thriving and full of magic, and White London, which is also slowly starting to be corrupted. We follow Kel. He is from Red London, and he travels to deliver letters between the monarchs of these cities, but also on the side he does a small bit of smuggling, and then he smuggles the wrong thing and starts a whole chain of events. And I don't think I enjoyed the plot. I think the 2nd book is definitely the weakest in plot. It is very much just characters, but that can be said about most of the series, and I happen to love the characters. It's why it's my favorite series of all time. I love these characters. Like, guys, it was embarrassing me. Like, so the first line is Kel wore a very peculiar coat, and I had the audiobook on, which I don't love the audiobooks for these, but it was like I was listening to my favorite song and just like cheering along, because like, Kel wore a peculiar coat. Like, that's embarrassing. But also, I don't care. So there were so many moments, and I think this time, I don't know, this time I think I took in some of like the smaller moments that I've missed before. Not necessarily missed, but maybe I took for granted, because with every reread, I love the characters more, and I kind of like have stronger feelings about characters and their development throughout the series. For some reason this time I was really attuned to kind of like the smaller moments of this story, and just like some of them, like, they're completely insignificant to the plot, but those moments, I'm like, this is what makes this a 5-star series and an all-time favorite series. It's these small moments where I get to see and love and adore these characters, and I had such a great time. Obviously a 5-star, and I'm so excited for Fragile Threads of Power. I read The Gathering of Shadows, and as I said, I do think that this is my least favorite, but every time I read them, I have a different opinion, so don't trust me. But this one, I would say, has the least amount of plot out of all of them, because A Darker Shade of Magic, like, obviously he smuggles this thing, and it sets off a chain reaction, so he's doing a lot of traveling between the different Londons to try and get this stone back to the correct place. And so there is, I would say, a lot of stuff happening. Maybe not the most riveting, complicated plot for people, but still, there is definitely one. Whereas this one, until about that far into it, I swear, like, we are learning, it is all build up. We are getting to see what the characters have done since they last were with each other. We are getting to see the kind of explorations of learning more magic, and also them dealing with the fallout of the first book and how it has kind of messed with them, and also kind of like the different relationships that have formed and also fractured since the last time. And we're also building up to the Eshantash, which is this magical tournament, and that doesn't happen until about this far into the book. So like, that last chunk is the magical tournament actually happening, which is the plot. And so like, I do technically think this is definitely very much middle book syndrome, but like, I enjoy the like almost pining. It's not necessarily pining, but like that like build up and anticipation of like them all coming together again. I enjoyed that. And so like, but also it is definitely very much middle book syndrome setting up. Okay, I can't remember where I was at. I think I had just finished talking about A Gathering of Shadows. Yes. Okay, so then the next book that I read was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. So this is M.L. Wang's next standalone. So obviously most people know her from The Sword of Kaigen. I love that book. I literally just got the special edition. It's so beautiful. That'll be in a book haul soon. And I do actually want to get the Blood Over Brighthaven, but the thing is they don't have the paperback. And I want the paperback to match The Sword of Kaigen. And also I find the cover very pretty, whereas like the hardback one, I don't really like it as much. So yeah. And since it's going to be in a vlog, I'm obviously just talking about the cover instead of the book. But I did give it a 4 stars. I'll spoil that for you. I did really enjoy it, but there's just a couple of things that held me back from giving it a 5. I just don't think... I think this book... I think there's aspects of this that there are obviously aspects of this that I really loved that are actually quite similar to ones that in The Sword of Kaigen, but this definitely has a very different vibe and feeling to it that I'm not really sure is dark academia my kind of thing. The characters, I just didn't really connect to them as much. And the thing is, our main character isn't necessarily supposed to be the most likable. It's kind of complicated because she does things that are extremely frustrating and make you dislike her. But then also at the same time, because we're mostly in her perspective, you are kind of rooting for her to prove basically all of these terrible men wrong. But also the whole kind of culture she is a part of is terrible. And she doesn't realize that because she is almost so focused on her oppression as a woman. It's very weird to be in her head, but it's very fascinating. But I think for a lot of people, that will probably really work. But for me, I think a lot of times for books to be 5 stars, like... I really do have to get connected to the characters, and that doesn't even 100% mean like love the characters, but even like, for me to just feel fully invested in their stories, and I didn't quite get that from our characters. Still, overall, a brilliant story, and I think a lot of people will really love it. And I think this one is maybe a bit more on the nose with some of its points than The Sword of Kaigen is. But sometimes I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing though, because sometimes you just need a story to hammer home the point. After that, I read A Conjuring of Light. The word Inosha makes me cry. That is all I'll say. On to the next book. This one was not on my TBR or anything like that. It's been a book that has been like in my mind that I'd be like, oh, I want to read that for, I would say, at least 2 years, and I've just never gotten around to it, and that is The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. And I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. And again, this is a book that there was things that I actually really liked about it, and also some things that I just didn't really care about. But I think the main thing is I came up with a plot halfway through my head where I thought the story was going, and I really liked that. And then that was not at all where the plot was going. The story follows Delena. When she is young, her village gets attacked by spirits, and she discovers that she has the power to control them. And then she basically dedicates her life to becoming stronger so she can stop this from ever happening again. And basically the way that this world works is the queen has extraordinary power and she can control all of the spirits in the land. And then obviously there are some girls that are able to control spirits but maybe not as strongly, and they are all training to hopefully one day become the queen. And as I said, there was a lot of aspects of this book that I did enjoy. I think the world was definitely one of those things. It was quite atmospheric. I think the spirits were quite creepy at points, especially like this is a YA, and like there was like deaths in here that were quite gruesome. Kind of surprised that they were like in a YA book, because I've read adult fantasy books where the deaths have like freaked me out way less than this. There's definitely a heavy atmosphere, like a focus on nature, and also there's like this school setting and they are all very much like working extremely hard, pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think I really enjoyed our main character and her personality and like just her dedication to her friends and family, and how she wants to like become powerful and all of this, but she's never going to be the person who like pushes people aside to do it, and she's always thinking outside of the box of how can we work together to do this thing, instead of like, oh, they want me to do this thing, let me do it. And that is another thing, is she is always being taught this is the way you do things, and she throughout the story kind of discovers her own ways of doing things. And I also really enjoyed that aspect as well. Nothing ever quite got there. Like, there was like this weird romance that I didn't really care about. While I liked the characters, I didn't love them, and there was definitely kind of some characters that I just didn't fully think I got like the best understanding of, and I just wish that I had gotten more from them. And same with the plot. There was, like, as I said, there was moments where I thought, oh, this is where this thing is going, and it'll be like, no, it's not, and this is where this thing is going. And so I think in the end, it very much, like, this is maybe a me thing, and I just went into it with the wrong expectations, but it was very much a pretty straightforward YA fantasy plotline, and I thought that there was a lot of moments in the story where she could have chosen to go a different direction and do something extremely unique, and she just never quite did it. And so, like, it was like really close to being something like truly amazing for me, but it never quite got there. I am probably going to continue the series though, because I overall enjoyed it. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Shadow Glass by Rin Chepeko. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. And again, so this I am reading because I'm reading every single Rin Chepeko book, and I was about to say I now only have one more book, but haven't they gone and released another book? And it's like, are you scared of the dark book? And it's like middle grade. I'm like, why? So yeah, so now I have 2 more books to read from them. But anyway, this is the 3rd and final book in the Bone Witch series. It follows T, and she is a bone witch, and she basically gets taken away so that she can learn how to use her power. But we are also flashing forward to the story of this, and he is writing down T's story, and we kind of learn that she has basically been disgraced almost, and we are trying to build up to that all happening. And I think my biggest problem is, see, it's complicated, because on the one hand, I don't think some of the reveals in this book would have worked if we didn't have that like flashback flash forward. But also, I don't actually think that that needed to be there, or I'm trying to think of how to put this. I think the flashing forward should have ended in book 2, and in this book B. But then if Rin Chepeko did do that, then the reveals that they had planned wouldn't have worked, because they worked because the flashing forward was still happening, even though like it was close in timeline. The reveals wouldn't have worked, but also the reveals didn't really work for me anyway, because I just wasn't invested in the characters, and I was like, am I supposed to really care about this character? I liked the first book. I left too long between the first and second, and so I was very confused. Why does there need to be a character called Khalid, Kans, and Callan? I can't remember. Why? Why would you do that to me? I think that the world is fun and interesting and unique, and I do appreciate that Rin Chepeko kind of went places in this book that maybe some other YA authors wouldn't have. But I don't know, I just never truly loved this story. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad story. I do think it is a solid YA, but I'm growing out of YA, and I think with Rin Chepeko, because I have read one of their newer YA series, which is The Never Tilting World. I gave both of those books 5 stars, but I was in a very specific mood when I read them, and I binge read both of them. So I think that might be the way that I have to be for like Rin Chepeko's YA fantasy. I like their YA horrors, and I also like their adult fantasy, but I think maybe for their YA fantasies, I'll have to like be a bit more cautious whether or not I'm going to read them, and also kind of like, if I am going to read them, kind of like binge. And then the last 2 books that I'm going to briefly mention, because again they are in vlogs, is going to be The Red Pyramid and The Throne of Fire by Rick Riordan. These are books 1 and 2 in the Kane Chronicles. I have a vlog coming, and it's basically, and I'll tell you what the vlog is. It's me revisiting my book hauls. I do it every quarter. So I've done a January, February, March one. I've done a April, May, June, and this is my July, August, September one. And basically I've read all my books from 2020, but I haven't read all of my books from 2021 and 2022. So I go back through the 3rd quarter of those years, and I read all 3 of the books. I finished the series the start of this month in September, and I was like, okay, I'll be ready to post this, but I was like, oh, I'll just double check that I've read all of the books, and I discovered that there was actually 2 more that I have to read. So so there's a bit of a pause on this until I read those 2, but it should be up hopefully by the end of the month. So then you will get thoughts. Those were all of the 9 books that I read in August, which is actually more than I thought I did. So I'm quite proud of myself because I mean, I suppose my reading hasn't been too bad, but my posting has been. But I have a schedule, and I've been making like a plan, and I'm hoping that I'll be doing roughly 2 videos a week starting now. So if I don't hate me, please. But I think I should be back to it, and I'm really excited because I really missed it, and there's been like, I've had so many ideas of the videos I want to do, but I haven't had the time, and I'm thinking that I might finally have the time, and I have like 3 vlogs to do in September, as well as like this video, and obviously my TBR, and there's another video I want to do. So I'm like, I have September videos planned. So will I stick to it? Probably not, let's be honest, but I'll try. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.